Well, good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Colonel Russ Vernon, the Executive Director of the National Purple Heart Honor Mission. We're excited to welcome everyone to our inaugural Purple Heart Heroes discussion. Tonight, I'm pleased to be joined by Vietnam veteran and Purple Heart recipient Daryl Horn, the author of Blood, Sweat, and Honor. And we'll talk more about that in just a moment. First, I want to do a couple of housekeeping items. Please remember to keep yourself on mute. Everyone should have been muted now when you've joined, but please keep yourself muted throughout the presentation. We'll be able to ask questions at the end. Second, if you want to ask questions, you can go into your Zoom and share your questions via the chat room icon at the bottom of the screen, or share your name and we'll call on you. Thanks in advance for working with us on this. For those of you who are just getting to know the National Purple Heart Honor Mission, I'd like to take a moment to share a little about our history and our work. Our organization was the driving force behind the establishment and later the expansion of the National Purple Heart Hall of Honor, located just north of West Point, New York, near the historic site where George Washington first awarded the Badge of Military Merit in 1782. Today, we continue to support the Hall of Honor by working to expand the National Roll of Honor. The Honor Mission also provides tribute programs that salute the service and sacrifice of our nation's nearly 1.8 Purple Heart recipients, including our annual Purple Heart Patriot Project missions, which brings heroes from around the country to the Hudson Valley for a week-long salute to service and other tribute programming. Events like the Patriot Project and other activities are held at no cost to our heroes. Instead, we rely on grassroots donors like you to give these humble heroes the recognition they deserve. If you'd like to help us pay tribute to these brave men and women, you can do so by visiting us at www.purpleheartmission.org. And you can click on the donate button in the top right corner. Now I'd like to introduce Daryl Horn, who has proudly and kindly joined us this evening. A native of Arkansas, Daryl served as a member of the U.S. Marine Corps from 1966 to 1970, including a tour in 1967 with the 1st Marine, 9th Marine Regiment, 3rd Marine Division, which would change his life forever. Today, Daryl and his wife of 50 years, Marilyn, continue to live in Arkansas, where they enjoy time with their children and grandchildren. Daryl, I'll turn it over to you now, and thanks everyone for joining us.
All right, well, I just want to say good evening to the Purple Heart Mission members and friends, the guests. It's a real honor to be here with you tonight. And I want to thank Bob Driscoll and Colonel Russ Vernon for inviting me, giving me this opportunity to share my story with you. I'm Daryl Horn, a Marine combat veteran of the Vietnam War. I'm a Purple Heart recipient, and I'm a proud American. I have my lovely wife, Marilyn, here with me tonight. I'd like to introduce her. We have shared many wonderful years of marriage together, and she is my best encourager and supporter before, during, and after Vietnam. She is the best thing that ever happened to me. We have 3 wonderful children, twin daughters that were born while I was in Vietnam, and a son and 5 grandkids. Yes, we are blessed. I also want to thank your Purple Heart Mission organization for being passionate about honoring our military and especially our Purple Heart veterans. As you all know, we've been blessed with generations of brave men and women who have sacrificed their time, their service, and even their lives so we can continue to enjoy our freedom. If not for these brave men and women, the world that we live in today would be a very different place. President Ronald Reagan once said, most of those who died in defense of our country were boys when they died, and they gave up two lives, the one life they were living and the one they would have lived. They gave up their chance to be husbands and fathers and grandfathers. They gave up everything for their country, for us. All we can do is remember. We are so appreciative of each veteran, past and present, and family members who supported them. I thank our veterans for their service to our great nation, the United States of America. From 1962 through 1975, around 3 million of our men and women left their homes to go serve our country in Vietnam. 20% of us went into combat roles. The rest were in support roles. There were 58,479 men and women killed in action during the Vietnam War. Another 1,600 became prisoners of war or were declared missing in action. It is heartbreaking for me to say most of those are still missing. Over 150,000 of us veterans were combat wounded. Some had wounds that could be seen, but many wounds were unseen and are showing up in the lives of our veterans today. As you may remember, we did not come home from Vietnam to a hero's welcome or patriotic rallies of support. Instead, we were greeted with confusion, anger, and resentment from our fellow citizens. We were blamed for a war that consumed America for over 10 years. It was a sad time in our nation's history, and I pray this never happens again. Like many veterans who were involved in different wars, I didn't talk about my combat experiences for over 35 years. Most people I worked with did not even know that I had served until I was interviewed by the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, who did a profile page on me. After the story was published, many of my friends and coworkers called. They wanted to know why I had not shared with them that I was a Vietnam veteran. Well, I didn't share with them because at that time it was very difficult to talk about my combat experiences. And it was not a popular topic when I returned home from the war. I'm happy that attitudes have changed in the last 20 years or so. At least for me, I've been thanked many times for my service. I realize it's way overdue, but I do appreciate the many kind words of thanks. Recently, I was thanked while Marilyn and I were in a coffee shop with family. I had stepped outside to take a phone call when this lovely young lady came walking by, smiling at me as she went into the shop. After I finished my conversation, I went back in the shop. This lady came over to me, took both my hands, looked me in the eyes, and she said, "I want to thank you for your service. And I want you to know that we appreciate you." I was really taken off guard, and I guess I was a little embarrassed, but it really made me appreciate her. I didn't know what to say. I think all I finally got out was, "Thank you, ma'am." I hope that many of our veterans have had similar experiences. You know, all veterans have stories that should be told, and I chose to tell mine in a book titled Blood, Sweat, and Honor, Memoirs of a Walking Dead Marine in Vietnam. I wrote this book at the request of family and friends who had asked me to share some of my experiences. I also wanted to show my fellow veterans that it is possible to survive after war without turning to drugs and alcohol to block out our combat memories. I especially wanted to share how God guided and protected me during this time. This book has been very therapeutic and healing for me. I didn't expect it to take 9 years to write. If anyone would like a copy of this book, just let me know, or it can be purchased on Amazon. Along with writing this book and having some counseling at the VA about my experiences and some PTSD issues, I am now able to talk about my experiences. And that's why I encourage other veterans to talk to others and maybe even write something about their experience, because I now realize how much it really does help. One of the most commonly used phrases during the Vietnam War was the words, "It don't mean nothing." I'm sure many combat veterans have said this or heard it said at some point. This was simply a way to hide the fear, the anger, the pain, all the bleeding and dying in rice paddies and on unnamed hills that we would take one day and then have to return and retake it on another day, always losing precious lives. The truth is, all of life events actually do matter. I have learned that we must deal with our past and make the best of it. I think most family and friends want to know what we went through, but are hesitant to ask. I chose the title Blood, Sweat, and Honor for my book because of all the blood spilled in the country of Vietnam to hopefully stop the spread of communism. The sweat was chosen because we were just a bunch of dirty, sweaty, grungy kids going without baths weeks on end, not even taking our boots off at night because we had a 24/7 job to do, and we always had to be ready for the next battle. The honor part was because I saw so many great men serve and die with honor. The Walking Dead Marine subtitle comes from North Vietnam's General Knapp, the leader of the North Vietnam military, who had vowed to wipe out my unit, 1st Battalion, 9th Marines of the 3rd Marine Division, because we had caused so much havoc for them, and we had defeated them in many battles already. Yet General Knapp was so confident that he could wipe us out that he tagged us dead men walking. The sad part is that they almost did wipe us out, but we prevailed. Thus our battalion attained the title of the Walking Dead. This is not from a TV series. We are the original Walking Dead, and we're proud of this title because we did prevail. Another reason, sadly, was because our battalion had more of our men killed in action than any other battalion in Vietnam. The reality of Vietnam set in for me while I stood on the tarmac in Okinawa, Japan, beside a C-130 and watched large black body bags being unloaded from the plane that would soon transport me to Vietnam. I knew that we were the replacements for these men who had been killed in action. I had a terrible sinking feeling along with the sharp pain of the reality that some of us standing ready to board this plane would also be returning in body bags. I'm sad to say, way too many did. My first day in the field of Vietnam, my company was caught in a mortar attack. It is still hard for me to believe that with all the exploding mortars around us, none of us were injured that day. My second day in the field, we were ambushed by the Viet Cong. My company fought and killed most of the enemy, except for 2 that we captured. But during the battle, one of our Marines was killed and 3 others were wounded. At this point, I was saying, well, actually I was praying, Lord, if it's going to be like this every day, how can I survive? Well, some days were better, some days were worse. I'm thankful to God to be here today, but I still mourn for my brothers who paid the ultimate sacrifice. About a month later, my company of 150 Marines were on a search and destroy mission called Operation Buffalo. We were out along the demilitarized zone where we met up with 5 battalions of the North Vietnam Army. This amounted to around 5,000 enemy soldiers. The odds, 150 Marines versus 5,000 enemy. The odds, as you can see, were not good. By the time reinforcements arrived later that day, 59 Marines in my company had been killed and another 65 critically wounded. I was fortunate to be one of the 26 survivors. Most of us survivors had been wounded at least once. I had been wounded twice. First time was when a grenade exploded over my head and filled my ears with shrapnel, causing me to be temporarily deaf. The second time was while I was helping a wounded Marine to the landing zone to be airlifted out. We had a mortar attack, and as the mortars exploded around us, I felt a hot, burning pain in my left arm. I thought my arm was gone. I was relieved to feel and see that it was still there. I picked out the larger pieces of shrapnel, but the small pieces would remain in my arm the rest of my life. The critically wounded were medevaced out, and I was never sure what happened to most of them, except for the 2 who returned to our company a couple of months later. One of those Marines was my buddy, Ronnie Fields. Ronnie had jumped out in front of me during the battle, taking 2 bullets and saving my life. Ronnie deserved the highest award for heroism and valor for this act of putting his own life at risk for a fellow Marine. He did not receive any recognition for his bravery, but there were acts of heroism that day that were never recognized, primarily because no officers were left to report the acts of heroism. They had all died in the battle. In the end, there were just a few of us left fighting for each other and our own lives. I feel that I'm here today because of prayer. God spared my life because I had so many family members and friends back home praying for me. And I guess God just wasn't finished with me yet, because I'm here and he's still working on me. My tour in Vietnam started in May of 1967 and ended in February of 1968. I came home on a snowy Valentine's Day to be greeted at the airport by my beautiful wife and our 2.5-month-old twin daughters that I got to see for the first time. It was the best day of my life. A few years ago, my wife and I were able to visit the war memorials in Washington, D.C. The Vietnam Memorial Wall is special to me. At first, I didn't want to go because I wasn't sure if I could handle it emotionally. It was and is very difficult, but I'm so glad that I did. I was privileged to honor those 58,479 veterans who paid the ultimate sacrifice. You know, each one of those names on the wall represents an individual and their families. It's hard to imagine all the hurt and grief caused by those deaths. I have many friends on that wall. That black granite wall contains the names of 749 Marines from my battalion alone that paid the ultimate sacrifice in Vietnam. On one block of that wall, section 22E, are the names of 59 of my buddies. They were all killed in one day on July the 2nd, 1967, during an operation that we called Buffalo. I believe it's never too late to pay tribute to our veterans who served and continue to serve with valor, courage, and honor during all the wars and even peacetime. We need to thank God not only for the gift of life, but for the gift of our veterans who have given something of themselves to this country. Through our nation's history, over 1.3 million have given all, laying down their lives to defend the freedoms that we hold so dear. I'm very thankful and honored to be a Purple Heart recipient. It's not a medal that I wanted, but I'm proud to have bled for my country. Serving and fighting in Vietnam has caused me to appreciate life and all that God has given me. Thank y'all for having me and listening to my story. May God bless you. May God bless our veterans. And may God continue to bless the United States of America. Thank you. And I'll be here for any questions that might pop up.
Daryl, thank you so much. How powerful those words and thoughts were and are.
Thank you.
You know, we've got some young veterans. I see Nathan Parker is on the call, and the younger men and women who have served in Iraq and Afghanistan. What words of advice from your experiences now being home do you have for them?
Well, I'll start out by saying visit the local Veterans Administration to find out what benefits might be available to you and what you need to do to apply. I would also say volunteer at your Veterans Administration to be able to help other veterans in need. Seek out and choose military organizations to join. If you've been wounded, the Military Order of the Purple Heart is a good organization that helps veterans that need help. I belong to this organization, and my wife and I volunteer at the Veterans Administration. It is rewarding to be of help to other veterans. I'd say be patriotic, encourage and talk to other veterans to see what they've done to make a difference in their families, friends, and communities. And I would say be comfortable in your own skin. Be the best that you can. Things always get better with time, no matter what's happening. And I would also like to say, I recommend that you join your unit for the reunions that they have. My reunions have really been rewarding. I joined like in 2006, and I've been every time since then. It's really rewarding to connect with your past friends in Vietnam and in the military.
We have a couple of your Vietnam veteran colleagues I see on the screen, and I know Washington, you've done work with the VA and veterans throughout the state of Florida. You have any thoughts to share?
Well, I really have many, but I'll spare you guys because you'll say ditto for the most part, but I've worked at levels that I did not even dream about or think about or believe that I was qualified to be involved in at the state level, like the Florida, working with the Florida Department of Veteran Affairs, working with their foundation, raising money for them and taking money that help homeless veterans and at risk to homeless veterans. And I've continued to do those things, either statewide or local-wise, helping guys with the veteran treatment program that most of you have in your state, and helping guys get their license. I mean, just things that you would not even think would be needed, but they are needed, desperately needed for our veterans. And coming out of 2020, we've got so much to do. You got to find those veterans that are suffering right now, and get them back in the flows of things, because they won't seek out. You know, we're that way. We won't beg for help. We have to be pursued in a lot of cases, and that's the kind of stuff I've done with the Homeless Veteran Stand Down, that most of you have those kind of organizations in your state, and seek them out, work with them. And I just finished working with FSU, plus a university, to do a movie film, short film. I never would have imagined doing something like that, because I definitely have no talent as that. But they asked me and really wrap their arms around me and say, you have the example that we need to do what we're doing. And it's just one example. And so yesterday, we just finished taping the last part of it, and in June or July, it'll come out as a short film, and hopefully it won't it won't be embarrassing to you guys. But these are the things we do. I mean, I just step up. Somebody asks me to do something, I just do it. That's where I am.
Yeah, and we appreciate all the work you do. And I see Galaxy 821 on the screen, and with Nathan, you know, these are the guys that have served in Iraq, Afghanistan, and they do. A lot of them have come home and kind of disappeared, and, you know, don't, like you guys from Vietnam, don't want to talk about it. And I think it's important to have mentors like the Vietnam vets that have been there, gone through it, to be able to talk through the issues. But all of us, when called upon by our country, took our oath to defend the Constitution and did what our country asked of us. There's nothing to be ashamed of. We should all be proud that we answered that call. And I know I've got Richie Lay on here, and Richie's the chairman of the honor mission. And Richie, do you have thoughts to share? You're on mute. You're on mute, Richie.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to say welcome home. We did good. And there are so many things that I related to that, to your presentation, from the body bag issue to also coming out of our shell. And I can remember exactly when mine was. It was at the first on the first Genesis dinner. And somebody said to me, I walked in with the 129 Purple Heart recipients who were there. And Andy Kamachak, who was the executive director, very good friend, more or less said to me, well, when are you going to do something? And I put the Purple Heart on for the very first time. It had not been out of the box. And I walked down the aisle leading 129 guys. And the following day, I had to business as usual. So I was dealing with another organization, and the woman who was sitting in the audience by the name of Maggie Smith, she was on a number of board of directors with me, said to me, quote, "What the F were you doing leading those guys down?" And I said, "Well, I'm a Purple Heart recipient." She says, "Well, I saw it on your lapel, but how come I didn't know this?" And my response to her was, "Well, it's something you can't work into cocktail conversation." And the irony of it was, she said, "My husband, when I come home," and she said, you know, Richie Lay walked him down the aisle. I never knew he was a Purple Heart recipient. And her husband, Doug, said, "For some reason, I think," and she said, "Well, yeah, but he's my friend. How the hell come?" And when you said that, that's exactly what we did. We kept that in confidence. You couldn't work it into a conversation. You couldn't address it to anybody because half of them didn't want to know. And the other half would come up with something stupid like, what was it like? And you just couldn't explain it. But anyway, you hit to the core of everything. No pun intended. I'm another Marine. I was probably your replacement. I was with 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines, 1st Marine Division during the TET of 68. Welcome home. And I want to congratulate your wife for standing by you throughout this time, because she too is one of the true heroes of the Vietnam War. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I guess with that, I'll end the call. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Bye.
it.
Thank you for having us.